All right, so are you ready to dive deep into becoming a people magnet? You picked a really cool book for this one, How to Become a People Magnet by Marc Reklau. I'm really curious to see what he has to say.
Oh, it's a fantastic choice. This one really gets deep. It goes way beyond just, surface level advice.
Okay, so no more of those awkward networking events or feeling lost in a crowd.
That's the goal. This is all about building real, genuine connections.
I like the sound of that. Sign me up.
Think about unlocking your inner charisma.
All right, I'm in. So, Reklau starts off with this really interesting core principle. He says that people are mostly interested in themselves.
Yeah, and that might seem kind of harsh at first, but when you really think about it, it makes sense. We're all kind of wired to put our own needs and experiences first.
It's like we're all the stars of our own movie, right?
You got it. And once you understand that, it's a game changer for communication.
So it's less about being manipulative and more about figuring out what makes people tick.
Exactly. It's like asking yourself, what's in it for them?
Okay, so let's say I'm at, I don't know, a networking event and I really want to connect with someone. Let's say someone who could be a mentor. I shouldn't just jump in with my elevator pitch, right?
Definitely not. Instead, try and figure out what they're passionate about.
So ask about their goals, what challenges they're facing, that kind of thing.
Exactly. People love to share what they know when they feel like you're really listening.
It's like shifting the focus from me to you.
That's it.
Okay, so how do we actually make people feel important in a way that's real? It can't just be empty flattery, right?
Oh, absolutely not. It all starts with genuine interest
Okay, so really listening to what they have to say, asking good
and
questions.
using their name. Don't underestimate the power of a name. These small things make a big difference.
It's like you're saying, hey, you're seen, you're heard, and you matter.
Exactly. And, Reklau talks about the power of sincere compliments.
Okay, so not just generic praise.
Right. It's
Right.
got to be specific. Acknowledge their strengths and efforts.
So instead of great job, I could say something like, wow, I was really impressed with how you handled that difficult client. Your diplomacy skills are incredible.
Now you're getting it. That kind of specific feedback, it makes people feel valued.
It's about helping them grow, right? Not just stroking their ego.
You got it. And you know what? This actually leads into another big strategy. Reklau talks about being agreeable. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, especially for those of us who, love a good debate.
Oh, tell me about it. I can be pretty opinionated at times. But how does being agreeable make us more magnetic? I'm intrigued.
Well, think about it this way. Who do you enjoy spending time with more? Someone who is always disagreeing with you, or someone who, finds common ground?
Okay, yeah, good point. I definitely find myself drawn to people who can at least see things from my perspective.
And that's the beauty of agreement. It creates that sense of connection. And Reklau isn't saying you should become a pushover.
Right, so not blind agreement, but rather finding ways to connect even when you don't see eye to eye on everything.
Exactly. It's about picking your battles. He asks this great question. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be in peace?
Ooh, that's deep. I've definitely been in situations where I've dug my heels in and later realized, it just wasn't worth it.
We've all been there. But the key is to learn from it.
Yeah.
Shift your focus from being right to building understanding.
So how do we do that? How do we put this into practice without just completely compromising what we believe?
Well, he gives some great strategies. Like, even if you don't agree with someone, try acknowledging their perspective. Something as simple as, I see where you're coming from, can make a big difference.
Right, it shows you're listening.
And it's about finding those points of agreement, no matter how small they might be.
Like maybe you have different political views, but you both love dogs or something.
You got it. Find that common ground, even in unexpected places. And you know what? This actually ties into another important aspect of becoming a people magnet, and that's active listening.
Oh yeah, active listening. We've all heard about it, but what does it really mean?
It's more than just hearing the words someone is saying. It's about being fully present in the conversation, making eye contact, asking questions that show you're really paying attention.
It's about silencing that little voice in your head that's just waiting to jump in.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. Reklau says that active listening isn't just about being likable, it's also about becoming a better influencer.
Wait, hold on. How does listening make you more influential?
Well, think about it. When you truly listen to someone, you start to understand what motivates them. You learn about their values, their fears, their dreams. You get what makes them tick.
So it's not about manipulation, but more about getting to know them on a deeper level.
Exactly. It's about using that understanding to communicate in a way that resonates with them.
So it's about adapting my approach based on what I know about the other person. Right.
Precisely. Active listening gives you the tools to make those deeper connections, which, in turn, makes people much more open to what you have to say.
This is blowing my mind. This is way more than just surface level advice. Okay, so let's get practical. What are some specific habits that Reklau suggests to boost our people magnet power?
He's got tons. Let's start with a super simple one, saying thank you. And, I mean, really meaning it.
Okay, that seems pretty basic, but I'm guessing there's more to it than just saying the words.
Oh, for sure. It's about genuine gratitude. Think about the last time someone sincerely thanked you for something. How did it make you feel?
Pretty awesome, to be honest.
Exactly. And on the other hand, when our efforts go unnoticed or unappreciated, it can be pretty demotivating.
Okay, I get it. Make a habit of showing gratitude, even for the little thing.
Exactly. It creates a ripple effect. And you know what else he talks about? Owning up to your mistakes.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I tend to get a little defensive when I mess up.
That's natural. But trying to hide our mistakes or, blame someone else, it just makes us look insecure.
And probably makes people trust us less.
You got it. But when we own up to our mistakes and show that we're willing to learn from them, that's where the magic happens.
It's like saying, hey, I'm human, I make mistakes, but I'm trying to do better.
Exactly. It shows vulnerability, which can be surprisingly endearing.
Okay, so admitting our mistakes is actually a sign of strength.
Absolutely. It takes courage to own up to our shortcomings, and that courage, that's what inspires respect.
Wow, I'm starting to see how all of these little things are connected, you know? They're all about building trust and connection.
You're getting it. And here's another piece of the puzzle, keeping your word.
That seems obvious, but I bet Reklau has some interesting insights.
Think of it this way. When you consistently follow through on your commitments, you build a reputation for being reliable, trustworthy.
People know they can count on you, and that's super important.
Exactly. It shows that you're a person of integrity, and that strengthens all your relationships.
So if I say I'm going to help a colleague with a project, I need to follow through no matter what.
Right. And the opposite is also true. If we break our promises, we erode trust.
People start to see us as unreliable, and that's not magnetic at all.
Not at all. So be mindful of your commitments and try your best to follow through. Your integrity is valuable.
This is awesome. So does Reklau ever go beyond personal interactions? Like, does he talk about leadership or influencing larger groups of people?
It does. And this is where it gets really fascinating. He believes that one of the best ways to influence people is to believe in their potential and let them see that you believe in them.
Interesting. So it's not just about what we say, but about the energy we project, how we see people.
Exactly. He uses this great example called the Pygmalion effect. Have you heard of it?
Vaguely, it's something about expectations influencing outcomes, right?
Yep. Basically, they told some teachers that certain students were high potential, even though they picked the students randomly. And guess what? The students who were labeled high potential, they actually did better.
Wow, that's wild. So just believing in someone can actually help them achieve more.
That's what the research suggests. And the flip side is also true. If we constantly doubt or criticize someone, we might actually hold them back.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, in a way.
Exactly. So we have a responsibility to nurture the potential we see in others.
Okay, but how do we do that? It's more than just telling people they're great, right?
You're right. It's about creating an environment where they feel supported, where they feel safe to take risks.
So setting high expectations, but also giving them the tools and guidance to succeed.
Exactly. Believe in their capabilities and give them space to grow.
Wow, this is making me rethink leadership entirely. It's not about being the smartest person in the room, is it?
Nope. It's about inspiring others to reach their full potential. And you know what? Reklau says the ultimate way to do that is to lead by example.
That makes sense. Actions speak louder than words.
Right. He shares this great story about Gandhi. A mother went to him and begged him to tell her son to stop eating sugar. And you know what Gandhi said? He said, "I need time to prepare."
He needed time. Why?
Weeks later, he finally met with the child and told him to stop eating sugar. But the mom was confused. Why did he need weeks? And Gandhi said, "I had to stop eating sugar myself first."
That is a powerful story.
Right. It's about embodying the values and behaviors we want to see in others.
I'm seeing a common thread through all this. It's about building trust, real connection. And it's not about tricks or manipulation. It's about genuinely connecting with people.
You got it. That's what Reklau is all about. And you know what? Speaking of genuine connection, he has this brilliant technique for giving feedback that's actually compassionate and effective. It's called the feedback sandwich.
Oh, yeah, the feedback sandwich. I've heard of that. Tell me more.
It's pretty simple. You start by praising something the person is doing well.
So start on a positive note? Makes sense.
Then you gently introduce the area where they could improve. That's the meat of the sandwich.
Okay, but it's framed within the positive, so it's not just a list of their flaws.
Exactly. And then you
Nice.
finish with another piece of sincere praise or encouragement.
So the feedback is sandwiched between two pieces of positivity.
Exactly. This makes it so much easier to hear and helps them focus on their strengths.
Yeah, that makes way more sense than just launching into a critique.
It's about being supportive and encouraging.
This is great. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Understanding that people are interested in themselves, making people feel important, and being agreeable even when we disagree.
We've also talked about the power of active listening and the importance of leading by example, right?
And we even touched on the Pygmalion effect. I feel like I'm already becoming a people magnet, but there's so much more to explore in Reklau's book.
There is. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to talk about the importance of recognizing everyone's inherent worth, the power of positive self-talk, and putting ourselves in other people's shoes.
Okay, wait.
Stay tuned.
All right, I'm ready for more on becoming a people magnet. So, last time we explored some really interesting ideas, like active listening and leading by example. What else does Reklau have for us?
Well, this next part focuses on treating people right, building those strong foundations, for positive relationships. Reklau really emphasizes that we need to recognize everyone's worth.
Okay, so it's more than just being polite, right? It's about having deeper respect for everyone, regardless of who they are or what they've achieved.
You got it. It's about seeing the inherent dignity in every human being.
I love that idea, but it's easy to get caught up in, status and achievements in the real world. How do we actually stay grounded in that principle?
It all starts with awareness. Being mindful of those little ways we might be diminishing someone, even unintentionally.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, Reklau talks about things like not giving credit where credit is due, criticizing people in front of others.
Oh, yeah, those are definitely not good. It makes people feel small.
Right, and when someone feels unappreciated, it creates a barrier.
So how do we flip that? How do we make people feel like they actually matter?
Mindset shift. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, look for what's right. Notice people's efforts, even the little things.
Celebrate their strengths, even if they're different from our own.
You got it.
Mm.
And sometimes the simplest gestures, like remembering someone's name, can have a huge impact.
It shows you're paying attention, like, hey, you're not just another face in the crowd.
Exactly. It shows you care.
Okay, so we're recognizing worth, showing gratitude, active listening. What else can we do to cultivate these positive connections?
Reklau has this interesting point about not competing with others. It's tempting, right, to want to one-up someone when they're sharing good news or achievements.
Oh, I know that feeling. Like, oh, yeah, well, I did this.
Right, but resist that urge. Instead of trying to outshine them, be genuinely happy for them. Ask questions, show enthusiasm.
Yeah, because when we try to compete, it's like saying, my story is more important than yours.
And that creates distance.
Yeah.
But when we celebrate their success, it builds connection.
It also shows that we're confident in ourselves. We don't need to put others down.
Exactly. True confidence shines through when you can be happy for others' successes.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about when we need to, give constructive criticism? How do we approach those situations?
That's a great question. Reklau acknowledges that sometimes it's necessary, but he suggests a really cool strategy. Talk about your own mistakes first.
Interesting. So share a time when you messed up and what you learned.
Exactly. When you own your imperfections, it creates this atmosphere of vulnerability.
Right. It shows you're not being all high and mighty, like, hey, I make mistakes too.
It shifts the dynamic from confrontation to collaboration.
And that's when real growth can happen.
Exactly.
Okay. So recognizing worth, celebrating achievements, giving feedback with humility. What else?
Reklau was a big believer in positive self-talk. Seems obvious, but it's easy to fall into negativity.
Yeah, some people just love to complain about everything.
And it's contagious. Being around negativity all the time, it can really drain you.
And nobody wants to be around a negative Nancy all the time.
Right, and Reklau says negativity actually makes you less attractive to others. People are drawn to positivity.
It's like a light in the darkness,
That's a great way to put it. So make an effort to focus on the good stuff.
It's not about ignoring problems or pretending everything's perfect.
No, but it is about choosing to focus on solutions,
Hmm.
Celebrate small wins.
Express gratitude, savor the good moments.
Exactly. It's a perspective shift.
Mm.
And the best part, positivity is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Okay, I like that. This is all really helpful. But what about when someone is just plain rude or disrespectful? Do we just grin and bear it?
Reklau has a really surprising suggestion. He says to become even friendlier when someone is being rude.
Really? That's not what I was expecting.
I know, right? But think about it. When someone is being aggressive, they're expecting you to fight back.
So by being extra friendly, you're kind of throwing them off.
Exactly. They're ready for a battle, and you come at them with kindness.
Like, nope, I'm not playing that game.
And it can be surprisingly effective. He says friendliness often leads to more friendliness.
It's like kill them with kindness, right?
Exactly. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from a toxic situation.
So it's about setting boundaries, protecting our own energy.
You got it. We get to choose who we let into our lives. And sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do is distance ourselves from those who bring us down.
Okay, that makes total sense. It's about knowing our worth and not letting people treat us badly.
Exactly. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, inspire you. And that's another thing Reklau talks about. Choosing your circle wisely.
It's true. The people we spend time with have a huge impact on us.
It's not just about avoiding negative people. It's also about actively seeking out those who are positive, who support you.
So being intentional about who we spend our time with.
Right. You want people who share your values, who challenge you to grow, who make you feel good about yourself.
Any tips for making those kinds of connections?
Well, you could join groups or clubs that align with your interests, attend networking events, even just striking up conversations with people you encounter.
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Exactly. Reklau reminds us that most people are probably just as nervous as we are.
So just take that first step.
And remember, building genuine relationships takes time. Be patient, persistent, and be yourself.
Okay, all of that makes sense. But does Reklau talk about the internal stuff? Like those inner doubts and fears we sometimes have when it comes to connecting with people?
Definitely. There's a whole chapter on overcoming those limiting beliefs that can hold us back.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do we tackle those?
One big one he addresses is perfectionism. Striving for excellence is great, but when it turns into an obsession with being flawless, that's where things go wrong.
Because nobody's perfect.
Right. And those unrealistic expectations, they just lead to disappointment.
You're setting yourself up for failure.
So Reklau's suggestion, aim for excellence, not perfection. Do your best. Learn from your mistakes. Except that things won't always go perfectly.
Give yourself a break.
Exactly. Healthy relationships need acceptance, not judgment.
Okay, so embrace the imperfections. Makes sense. But what about when there are real problems in a relationship?
He has some great advice for that, too. He emphasizes the importance of addressing problems head on.
It's tempting to avoid confrontation.
Yeah, but all that does is create resentment. It's like a ticking time bomb.
So it's better to just rip off the Band-Aid and address it, even if it's uncomfortable.
Exactly. He says facing those problems directly is always less painful than the worry and anxiety of avoiding them.
So take control and find a solution that works for everyone.
And it shows that you're not afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
You value the relationship enough to work through the tough stuff.
It's about communication.
Exactly. Clear, open, honest communication.
Yeah, this is all great. So before we move on, can we circle back to choosing our circle wisely? Does Reklau give any specific advice on who we should avoid?
He does. He warns us about people with false self-esteem.
False self-esteem. What does that even mean?
Those are the people who are all about bragging and showing off, but they put others down to make themselves feel better.
Ah, I know the type.
It's all an act, Deep down, they're really insecure.
So how can you spot them? What are the red flags?
Pay attention to their actions. Do they constantly need attention and praise? Do they put others down? Are they really interested in other people?
Okay, those are some good things to look out for.
And Reklau's advice, steer clear. Find people who are genuine, supportive, who lift you up.
I love that. So focus on those real connections, the ones that add value to your life.
You got it.
Okay, this has been so eye-opening. We've covered so much ground. But there's one thing I keep thinking about, this idea of empathy. Does Reklau specifically talk about that?
He does. In fact, he considers it one of the most important principles. He says, put yourself in other people's shoes.
Try to see the world from their perspective.
Exactly. Ask yourself, why are they acting this way? What's going on in their life?
It's so easy to judge, but when we take a moment to see things from their side, It changes everything.
It helps you respond with compassion, even if you don't agree with their actions.
Because we're all fighting our own battles.
And Reklau shares this amazing phrase, I don't blame you. If I were you, I'd surely feel the same way.
Wow, I love that. It validates their feelings without condoning their
It
actions.
opens the door for understanding.
It's a good reminder that we never really know what someone else is going through.
Exactly. So instead of judging, choose kindness and empathy.
This is all making me think about how quick we are to make assumptions about people, you know?
Yeah, and Reklau warns against that. It's easy to fill in the blanks, but assumptions can lead to misunderstandings and conflict.
We create these stories in our heads that may not be true at all.
Right, and those stories can really affect how we interact with people.
So instead of assuming, we should ask questions, really listen to understand their point of view.
Exactly. Communication is key. And that's the foundation for any healthy relationship.
This has been such an insightful conversation. We've covered so much, from recognizing worth to overcoming those internal barriers. But there's still one more part of our deep dive to go.
And I can't wait to share what else Reklau has to offer.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into how to become a people magnet. And I'm really excited to see what else Reklau has to offer for, taking these connections to the next level.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about building those connections. But this last part is all about nurturing them, making sure they grow strong.
Okay, that's a great point. So what are some of Reklau's top tips for keeping those relationships thriving?
Well, he's a big believer in being dependable.
So that goes back to what we were talking about before, keeping your word and following through.
Right. Being someone people can count on no matter what, whether it's showing up on time or being there for a friend when they need you. That consistency, that's what builds trust.
It's like your actions are saying, hey, I'm here for you. You can rely on me.
Exactly. And it's not just about physically being there. It's about being responsive too.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
It's about making people feel heard. They matter. Responding to messages, returning calls, actively engaging in conversations.
Those little things make a big difference.
Huge. It shows you value the connection. On the other hand, when you're always distracted or unavailable, it sends the opposite message.
Yeah, it can be hurtful when you feel like someone isn't really there with you.
Exactly. So put the phone away, make eye contact, and truly listen.
Be present.
Yes. And another thing Reklau talks about is being respectful of people's time and boundaries.
That's so important. It's easy to overstep those boundaries sometimes, especially in today's world.
Right. So just be mindful. Before you call someone, shoot them a quick text to see if it's a good time.
Yeah.
Don't overstay your welcome. Respect their need for space.
It shows you value them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? This ties into forgiveness.
Oh, yeah, we talked about owning up to our own mistakes.
Well, this is the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
Everyone makes mistakes, right?
For sure.
And holding on to grudges, that just poisons the relationship.
It's like carrying around baggage.
It is. So practice forgiveness for yourself and for others.
It doesn't mean you're condoning bad behavior.
No, but it does mean letting go of that anger and hurt.
Choose peace over resentment.
Exactly. And this all kind of leads into expressing affection.
Showing the people we care about how much they mean to us.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be some big grand gesture.
The little things go a long way.
Exactly. A hug, a compliment, a small gift even.
Just make them feel seen, appreciated.
You got it. And the cool thing is those expressions of affection, they create a ripple effect. You give love, you get love.
It's all connected.
It is. And one last thing Reklau emphasizes is growth. Personal growth.
So becoming a people magnet isn't just a destination, it's an ongoing journey.
Exactly. Keep learning, keep growing, keep evolving.
It makes you more magnetic.
And it makes you a better person all around.
I love that. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much.
You too.
Reklau has given us some really powerful tools to connect with people in a meaningful way.
It's not about tricks or manipulation. It's about being genuine, showing empathy, and having that real desire to connect.
It's about being the kind of person that people want to be around.
Absolutely. So, as we wrap up, remember, even small changes can make a big difference. Start putting these strategies into practice and see what happens.
And before we sign off, let me leave you with one last question from Reklau. If you could only choose one strategy from his book to focus on, what would it be and why?
That's a good one. Something to think about.
Because becoming a people magnet is a personal journey. It's about finding what works for you. Well, that's it for our deep dive into how to become a people magnet. Thanks for joining us.
And remember, keep diving deep.